Welcome to the MultiREBAR RC Tutorial 3. This tutorial will provide an overview of how to create a new user-shaped bar. MultiREBAR allows you to create and save a library of user bar shapes. The shape diagrams will then be automatically inserted into the drawing bar list when the bar is drawn. Please allow at least 15 minutes to complete this tutorial. Let's begin by starting a brand new drawing in AutoCAD. We can use the multi.dwt as we are working in metric and then select Open. We are now presented with a multi-draft drawing setup. We can accept the default values of A1, 1 to 20 board and then select OK. We will not be using the title block, so we can OK on the title block details dialog box. Now that we have our drawing border and model space, we can begin by using the AutoCAD line command to draw the shape of our user bar. The user shape diagram is drawn as AutoCAD lines. The scale of the diagram is not important, as it will automatically be scaled by the Add User Shape command, so that it will fit between the specified number of bar list lines. Once we have drawn the lines, we need to dimension each bar leg. The Add User Shape command will edit these dimensions, so that the dimension value is replaced with the specified bar dimension letter. We could use the AutoCAD dimensions, but in this case we will use the multi-draft dimension tools. Let's begin by placing horizontal dimensions. We can access the main dimension flyout from the multi-draft toolbar and then select horizontal dimensions. We could pick the start and end points of lines, or we can enter or right mouse click to access the Select option. We can now select which of our lines require horizontal dimensions. We can then return to access the command and place our other horizontal dimension. We can now place our vertical dimensions. Again, we can access the main dimension flyout from the multi-drafts toolbar, but this time we will select the vertical dimensions icon. We can now select which of our lines require vertical dimensions. We now have the diagrammatic representation of our user bar shape drawn and dimensioned. MultiREBAR takes a snapshot of the screen when adding a shape to the library, so to save us from having our title block in our final slide view, we can go ahead and erase it now. We can now add this to our user bar library. To add a new bar to the user bar library, we will need to access the MultiREBAR toolbar and find our user bar library icon. This is easily found as it looks like a bar in the shape of a question mark. We will select page 3 of the library. The MultiREBAR user bar library dialog box now appears, and we can see that we are on page 3, and also the description for our user bar is shown. To add our shape to the library, we will need to select the New button at the bottom of the dialog box. Once selected, the library icon slots turn red, and we are asked to choose a blank icon to which the block will be added. We can select OK, and then select the first icon slot on the page. We can now see that the Add a User Shape Type dialog box appears. It shows us the description of our user bar. The number of lines to reserve specifies the number of lines that the shape diagram will occupy when it is inserted into the bar list. The number of straight legs or segments in the bar shape to be added. In our case, this will be 4. We will leave the Place Dims in Bar List line as shown. We also have the option to add a hook or a bob to the start or end of our bar, and to be prompted for these each time we place our user shape. For this tutorial, we will leave these as none. Once we are happy with our settings, we can select OK at the bottom of the dialog box. We can now select a window around our lines and dimensions. Ensure that you leave a generous boundary around your shape. The bar is now nearly completed. We just need to select the dimensions on the diagram that will represent the A, B, C, D, and E legs of our bar as shown. If you miss a dimension or make a mistake, then you can use the AutoCAD undo command and try again. Once we have finished, if we right mouse click or enter, the bar will be added to our MultiREBAR user bar library. Now that we have added our user shape to the library, let's draw a concrete outline and then detail the bar. From the MultiREBAR toolbar, we can select the outlines flyout. As we scroll along, we can see many different outline types available to us. We will in this instance select the slab to edge beam option. In the MultiREBAR concrete outline dialog box, we can see many options, and these are covered in depth in tutorials 1 and 2. For this tutorial, we will select the default values presented and then select OK. We can now select anywhere on our drawing where we wish our outline to be placed. The outline can be moved around its insertion point if required. We can also toggle the outline by selecting X on our keyboard, and this will then mirror the outline about its X-axis. Once we are happy with its insertion point, we can just pick. We have now finished our outline, and we can cancel the MultiREBAR concrete outline dialog box. You will have noticed that the concrete is in green and that the cover is in magenta, but these can be set to suit your own personal preferences. We could just start to place our user bar in the outline, but let's use the MultiREBAR calculators to place smart start and end points for our bar. If you have not completed tutorial 1 and 2, then you can bring up the MultiREBAR calculators by right mouse clicking over the MultiREBAR toolbar and then selecting calculators. There are lots of different options available to us in the MultiREBAR calculators toolbar, but we will start off by using the cover offset option. Again, there are many different offset options available to us, but we will start off by simply selecting the 100mm option from the cover offset dialog box. Once we have selected our offset option, the dialog box will disappear, and the command line is prompting us to select object to offset. We can now use our pick box to select the vertical cover line as shown. Now that we have placed our simple offset, let's use intelligent offsets for our bar using values from the detailing code. This time, when we look along the MultiREBAR calculator's toolbar, if we select the lap calculator option, we will be presented with the correct laps depending on the bar size or concrete grade that we choose. Let's select an H16 from the bar size pop list and then leave the concrete grade as the default value. We now have our tension lap offset value. When we select the OK button, the laps dialog box will disappear and the command line is again prompting us to select object to offset. We can use our pick box to select the cover offset line we just placed and then select anywhere along our bottom cover line and then enter or right mouse click to end the command. Let's now place an anchorage offset for the end of our bar. Again, we can look along our MultiREBAR calculator's toolbar, but this time we can select the embedment calculator. Once the icon has been selected, we are being asked to select bar or bar object to check. In this case, we can select our sloping cover line. The anchorage calculator dialog box now appears, and again, there are lots of different options available to us. We will select H16 from the bar size pop list, and then use the diameter factor option, and then select OK. We are being prompted to select a side to offset, but we will enter or right mouse click, and we can then select the start point for our anchorage and direction of anchorage as shown. Now that we have our concrete outline, complete with cover lines and offsets, we can proceed to draw the user shape bar. We can access page 3 of our user bar library from the MultiREBAR toolbar. You can use the zoom toggle to zoom in and out of the library icon slot. We can now select OK on the dialog box to begin drawing the bar. Our user bar has now been placed in the MultiREBAR drawbar dialog box. This dialog box is covered in depth in Tutorial 1. For this tutorial, we will change the bar diameter to H16 and accept the other values as presented, and then select OK. We can now pick our bar points to draw the bar. If you cannot remember the shape that you were drawing, you can always display a shape preview dialog box by typing SL at the command line, and then press the Return to Drawbar button to continue drawing the shape. The bar will be drawn in between the specified points, and the shape diagram will be added to the bar list. The User Shape dialog box allows us to specify the dimensions for each leg. We could use the Pick option to pick points, and these values are then reflected in the dialog box. We will use the Horizontal Leg option and then select the appropriate bar leg for our horizontal dimensions, and then the vertical leg for our vertical dimensions as shown. We could also choose the Outer Dimensions option, but we will stay with the centerline dimensions. The bar radius for all the bends on the bar can also be changed, but we will accept the standard radius for the diameter of bar. The cut length is also displayed in the dialog box. We can then select OK to finish the command. The bar has now been placed in our detail and has also been automatically offset inside our outline. It has also been ticked and tagged, and a label is waiting for us to select where we wish to place it in our drawing. Once we have selected the label position, the bar quantity dialog box will pop up. And again, there are many different inputs we can choose from, but for this bar, we will just change the quantity to 4 bars and then select OK. We are now returned to the drawing and need to select anywhere on our bar for our leader termination point. We have now placed our first user bar using MultiREBAR. Now that we have placed our first user bar on the drawing, let's take a look at the information that has simultaneously been generated in our bar list. To view the bar list, we can scroll along the bar list toolbar until we arrive at the View Bar Lists icon. Once there, if we release, we are then presented with our bar list and the View Bar List dialog box. This can be moved to view more of the bar list. We can also use the Zoom In button on the View Bar List dialog box to inspect our bar list closer. Select the Zoom In button on the dialog box and then select 2 points to indicate our zoom window. Now that we are zoomed in, we can see that all of the bar information has been filled in, along with a fully dimensioned diagram of our user bar. If we select OK on the View Bar List dialog box, we will be returned to our previous view. To get the drawing ready for plotting, we can turn off all of our reference information that may have been useful when detailing but not required in our final plot drawing. We can do this simply by accessing the MultiREBAR Drawbars toolbar and then scrolling along until we find our icon called Plot Layers. As you can see, there are many options that we can toggle on or off, but we will accept the default values and then select the Off button at the bottom of the dialog box. You can now see that the drawing looks a lot less cluttered and is ready for plotting. Congratulations, you've completed MultiREBAR Tutorial 3.